We take our graphics, we put it through a battery of tests from QUV testing, for example, that simulates the effects of weather. We put it through a battery of chemical tests, including fuels. And one test that you can do on your end to ensure that the graphic has actually fused into the plastic is a standard ASTM tape test. And I'd like to go ahead and illustrate that for you now. A standard test for adhesion actually requires you using a razor knife and cross-hatching the surface, putting tape over the top of it, and then peeling that tape off to test for adhesion. So let's go ahead and do that now. And as you can see, absolutely nothing came off on the tape, which is what's to be expected since they're now one piece of plastic. To further show just how durable these graphics are, I'm going to go ahead and wipe it down with an aggressive solvent. In this case, we're using some lacquer thinner. And as you'll notice, no smearing and no residue left on the paper towel. We're demonstrating here the incompatible nature of hot stamp foil with polyethylene and polypropylene. As you can see, with an aggressive solvent, it just has a tendency to wipe right off the surface. That's because you're trying to make it stick to a material like polyethylene or polypropylene that nothing wants to stick to. This is an example of what they call tipping. That's where they use hot stamp foil and they tip the raised letters. As you can see, again, that ink comes off, the adhesion is lost, and then you're left simply with the raised letters that are the same color as the part, and you lose the brand recognition from any sort of distance because it just blends in. This is an example of gouging that can occur when dealing with uneven wall thicknesses from one side of the part to the other, or even from multi-cavity tools. Our low pressure requirements prevent this kind of gouging. What we have here is a standard heat transfer. It's adhesive based, and as you can see, with a standard ASTM crosshatch tape test, the material actually comes right off the surface of the plastic. If we take that one step further and wipe it down with an aggressive solvent, you'll see that it literally comes off the surface of the plastic. Unlike a Polyfuze graphic, which is pigmented plastic and becomes one with your plastic product. What you see here is an in-mold label, also known as an IML. We're doing a standard ASTM crosshatch tape test for adhesion, and what you're going to notice here is you're actually starting to get some of the layers of clear coat and the inks coming off on the tape. Now we're taking this same sample, we're using some solvent, and we begin to rub it. And as you can see, especially down in the green area, layers of that ink is actually coming right off the surface. Again, we have an in-mold label. Again, doing a standard crosshatch tape test. We're hitting it with solvents again. But there's actually a mechanical bond that takes place between the substrate and the plastic. On top of that substrate, you have ink, you have clear coat, but as you can see here, it's literally coming off in chunks. That's because the mechanical bond is failing. With a Polyfuze graphic, it is a literally pigmented plastic fused together with your plastic. I'm going to give you some examples of pad printing and screen printing. When working with polyethylene and polypropylene, nothing wants to stick to those materials. As you can see with pad printing, it literally wipes right off the surface. Again, this is another example that when you use some solvents or cleaners, there's adhesion issues when it comes to working with polyethylene and polypropylene, and the ink wipes right off. Again, here's another example that goes very quickly. The ink does not want to stick. We use pigmented plastic that actually fuses together to become one with your plastic. Because Polyfuze graphics outlast and outperform other decorating technologies, you can understand why we're the industry leader when it comes to decorating polyolefin materials. We're competitively priced, And we custom tailor each individual graphic to your project. For example, we can provide you with a matte finish for your product. We can also provide you with a glossy finish. And this is going to be appropriate for the entire polyolefin family of plastics, whether it's polyethylene and its derivatives, polypropylene, structural foam, even TPO and others as well. So I hope that you enjoyed this demo today. I hope that you understand how easy it is to use a Polyfuze graphic with standard hot stamp or heat transfer equipment, why we add branding value to your projects, and how Polyfuze is the missing link to your decorating issues. Thank you for joining us today. I look forward to answering any questions that you may have and hopefully decorating your next project.